Okay, my friends. Today we're going to get in the Wayback Machine, go back to the late 40s and early 50s to a bodybuilder that most of you probably don't know, and that would be one Melvin Wells. Had a very short career, one of the reasons why he's not well known, but there he is. This was January of 49, and you can see quite a physique. Um, Especially upper body and especially back, biceps, and shoulders. So here we have Ray Van Cleef talking about Melvin Wells at the 49 Mr. America in Cleveland. Placed second. Enthusiastic response to the muscular marvel was only surpassed by Jack Dellinger, who won that contest and obviously in place first. Um, there he is. And again, and I don't expect anybody to read that text, but you can see by the picture, very impressive biceps, small waist, broad shoulders, big round coconut deltoids. His unassuming nature is particularly evident in the contest of this kind because most of the majority contests are puffed up like powder pigeons when exposed to the audience, and some make themselves ludicrous with exaggerated postures, etc. So there he is again, and this is him on stage um, doing just a single bicep pose there. And again, you can see he's very impressive. Uh, Nothing really lacking. The naturalness of Wells' stance and actions is, by contrast, especially admirable. Differs from the majority in other respects. Superman from Buffalo does not participate in the self inflation. He's talking about getting pumped up backstage, which it's hard to believe that anybody competing in the Mr. America wasn't back there getting pumped up. But that's what they're saying here. Um, and he confined his poses to the to specific ones that they asked for it and go overboard with. There he is. You could say standing at ease, although I don't think he's totally at ease. And you can see just how massive his tricep is there. Um, and all his greatest liability, as they mention here, is his poor calf development. And you'll see in numbers at some point that generally they like to have the biceps and the calves being about the same. And his calves were a couple inches smaller than his biceps. But other than that, really hard to find a shortcoming on him. There's his back, which is especially phenomenal for the time. And again, this was drug free because this is like 48, 49, when D ball hadn't even been invented yet. It wasn't to be invented for quite a few years. So here's from Joe Rourke after his final try for the Mr. America. He stopped competing, but did guest pose for approximately 10 shows, some of them in Canada in October. And then there was a couple Mr. Strength and Health contests that he did in like 51 and again in 54, which he placed second in one and third, I believe, in the second one. There he is again, and even a better shot of his back there, and his back and the tie-in between his upper back and his rear delts and his biceps was just phenomenal. Um, so we're gonna have more, just like a compilation of pieces of different articles out of Strength and Health and Iron Man, mostly. Greatest discovery since John Grimek. Now Grimek had a very long career. Now, I mentioned about this guy being stronger than Grimek. That's in reference to the Strength and Health picnic, which almost everybody, if not everybody, in this video, in their various articles, talk about having been at this Strength and Health picnic at Bob York's birthday and how phenomenal he was. At the age of 8, he began to use rocks as weights, so that's a pretty early start. And he wasn't a 90-pound weakling; he was, pretty strong from the start. Anything that was heavy fascinated him, and he would try to lift it. Rock lifting was his hobby for many years, though he didn't really understand it, or he couldn't really explain the urge. He just felt the urge to do it. So there he is doing strict military press with it looks like two plates on there, so it would be at least two and a quarter, I would say. And another thing that is pointed out by pretty much everybody is the strictness of form that he used. Now, he was at the time employed by Ford and was on the softball team. Here's his measurements. At 5'10", he only weighed 203, and you'll see 203, 205, 207, pretty much the same. Neck 17 and a quarter, upper arm 18 and 3/8, and that's supposedly cold. Cold forearm almost 14 inches, etc. There's another good shot. His legs not maybe quite as up to par with his upper body, but at the time that was actually pretty common. Not too many guys had great legs in those days. Um, I wish that all authorities would adopt the standard health and strength form and give natural, inflated, and expanded measurements from which can be learned many things. Interesting to compare the lifting abilities of wedge torso Wells with square torso Johnny Davis. Now, again, Johnny was a long time lifter and dominated his realm of Olympic lifting for some years. There he is. And big dude, obviously not really a bodybuilder, so he wasn't cut, but he definitely had the size and he definitely had the power. Um, so when speaking of strong and physically developed men, most everyone seems to think first of the circus or fall back on their knowledge of history, which recounts the daring feats of the bold and powerful Vikings or some other barbaric tribes that lived a long time ago, which were supposedly the real he-men in comparison, with whom today are mere weaklings. Now, there is a picture of a Viking. Now, it is mentioned in the article that, and I'm not sure how they figured this out, but that the typical Viking berserker was only like 5'8" and maybe 160, 170 pounds. Um, but then, where's the remarkable sales hype and facts when a guy wants to sell supplements and pre workout crap to kids of all ages and levels of intelligence? I think we know he's referencing here. Recent research has shown that even an average college athlete of today would have quite difficulty fitting into one of those steel armor outfits which were worn by those supposedly strong heroes of the Middle Ages, like this. So again, they're saying that these knights were not all that huge or muscular as Lure would have them made out to be. Now, it is only a sheer incident or accident, maybe would be a better word, that leads to their discovery, strongmen. Otherwise, in the privacy of some gymnasium, garage, or cellar, they train their beautifully developed bodies and get into play their bulging muscles that could be the object of admiration by many. In recent years, the trend in physical culture, as well as the fine publicity and promotion by such magazines in strength and health, has made it more apparent that there are indeed strong men and uh, fantastic physiques roaming the earth, such as almost the fate of Melvin Wells being unknown, a strong man from Buffalo who possesses a most phenomenal physique and Herculean strength. Only recently was brought out of oblivion, and it talks about like a panther. There's a panther, uh, and obviously a panther is a very strong, sleek, uh, muscular animal. Uh, and then we go into something from John McKean in 2015, obviously, only 10 years ago. And it will surprise many that during Grimek Day, there was another competitor who pressed and curled better. There we go, about the thing being stronger than Grimek. But according to serious expert officials at the time, actually displayed even more impressive arm musculature. There he is doing, and this is his favorite exercise. Some say it's pretty much all he did for biceps was, or at least for a time, where he would do several sets of super strict, and it would be somewhere in the range of 8 to 12 reps. And this guy from the USAWA talks about curling rules where they would put a sheet of paper behind our head and butt, backed up to a wall, and then curl without the paper slipping for training. Now it says Wells didn't use that, but reliable witnesses say he always performed very slow, picture perfect barbell curls, and you could see the end result with the biceps that he has there. And they say pumped. He was like the first guy to have legitimate 19-inch biceps. So if they were cold 18 to three quarter, three eighths or whatever, yeah, it sounds about right. Um, so he appeared again at the Bob Hoffman birthday strength show, uh, and that resulted in more requests for photos and stuff. Um, so this is going to show, some pictures and more talk about how he trains. But at 5'10" and a half tall, he weighed 205, and we mentioned again he had like 18 plus cold biceps, almost 14-inch cold forearms, 48-inch chest, and again that's supposed to be cold, um, and a very small waist. His waist was only like 31 inches. So I have a picture of Melvin Wells in front of me. Looking at it, I suddenly realized how incapable I am of doing justice to this most remarkable athlete. Not if I strummed a million minutes away on a typewriter could I give you any idea of the superhuman development of this man. It is quite a few weeks ago since I first met him at the Strength and Health picnic. Now, here's Grimek. Now, his arms were, certainly not bad, but I don't think it was ever his strongest point. For the day he was in, they were just fine. They were right up there with everybody's. Now, obviously, I think Grimmick's legs were probably a little bit better than Wells's. Um, Melvin Wells ranks with the best. His is the perfect combination of bulk definition and strength. 29 years old in 1949, born in Alabama. His mother had a family of three boys, and she knew right off the get go that Melvin was something special. And he played sports in high school. He actually played all three sports and did quite well. Now, there he is with Dellinger. And again, Dellinger won this contest. Whether that was completely fair and legit, I'll let you be the judge. Yeah, but he was a letterman in baseball, football, and all high in basketball. He played basketball for a transportation company, helping him to win five titles later on in his career. Uh, and he played softball again, it was mentioned, for Ford. The natural desire for strength, which had always been part of his uh, inner calling, led him to get his first weight set, which was only like 200 pounds. But he quickly outgrew that within a few months, as the article mentions, and he had to move on to a bigger set. Um, Although his training was rather haphazard, his power and presence was such that his friends soon began calling him Hercules. They, of course, now realize that the term is a trifle inadequate. He served in the armed forces during the war. Now, um, here he is with Jack Dellinger again, which he lost to in that 49 Mr. America contest. Um, Jack looked good. Did Jack legitimately beat him? I'll let you guys decide that. But he did win the most muscular in that contest and in the following year, Mr. America. So when he commenced his weight workouts, he was told that he should never use more reps than eight, as this was the best number for strength and development, and he pretty much kept to that, and obviously did him really well. He did tell me that on nights that he feels in form, he does the several sets of eight. But then, if he wasn't quite feeling that all that great, he would do more reps, but maybe only one set or two. Now, this was also from 49 Health and Strength, which was obviously the UK big magazine at the time. He wasn't on the cover, obviously, but he was in there. Um, and it's talk about him having doing bent over rows with 250 for reps, squatting 400 for like 10 reps, military presses with 200 for reps, and we'll go on to hear some more stuff that he did. He reads all the weight training magazines avidly. His favorites are, needless to say, Iron Man, Strength and Health, and it talks about the weeder a-holes. which we'll actually get into a Weeder article. Uh, Melvin does not have a single track mind. He likes the theater, swimming, plenty of rest, so forth. So we'll move into that muscle builder article from '59. There he is, the fantastic upper arm musculature, the inspiration of the author, who in this case was actually Leroy Colbert, who was the first guy later to have 20-inch arms. Um, there's a second part in the revelation of how sensationally the multi-power exercises works to build amazing size, and unfortunately, it's like a big ad for the multi-power, which is this machine here, which is kind of like the early version of the Smith machine, and no doubt at the time was a pretty cool innovation. But it talks about how it lends itself well to for peak contraction training. Um, and the most vivid recollection of my bodybuilding youth was a posing expedition by famous Melvin Wells, a man who had, I'm sure, and still has the most magnificently developed upper body. Older builders might, reading these words, can quickly conjure up a vision of Melvin's amazing arms with their huge baseball shaped, high peaked biceps, like we see here, even though he's in street clothes, obviously. A big bicep and big forearm. 19-inch, again at times, probably so at 19 inches at its best, but which in 1948 and 49 was fantastic. The most awe inspiring aspect of the superb physique was the incredible perfection of that tie in of arms into delts into pecs, hallmark of the true champion. Not enough to say Wells' super spectacular arms or his delts, as round and full as they were, or his pecs, etc. Just talking about the whole package. And he did go on. He won. He was in the Mister Strength and Health in '51 and '54. Placed well in both of those. Not really, Mister America type contests, but he did go on to do a lot of guest posing. But it goes into talk about how peak contraction training, really strict training, is the only way to build a perfect upper body, such as Melvin has. And he did prefer to do the strictest possible form ever. And it goes into this kind of bogus thing about how he wished that he had something that would enable him to train even stricter. Which, of course, now they come up with the multi power, which is going to do exactly that. There he is again. And I don't see, somebody mentioned his pecs as not being the best, but they look pretty good there to me. But it's talking about this uh, machine being developed to prevent any looseness of exercising form. How much more concentration I could put into each rep. How much more shape and more definition, yada, yada, yada. But then it goes on to talk about how Wells was born 10 years ahead of his time, because now we have this wonderful thing that can help you do this uh, specifically difficult training, concentration training. And there he is again. This was from later '50s, but maintained really good shape for those at least 10 years. Again, it goes back to talking about Melvin had to do it the hard way with energy and drive, all harnessed to his great ability to achieve the most shut out concentration. Although through most superhuman determination, he could press 280 in perfect military style, and it talks about him doing um, dumbbells, 120 dumbbells, uh, for like 9 reps on each side, which again is phenomenal. And there's his back, which in the '40s, drug free, steroids hadn't even come out yet, was phenomenal. Few men of his time or ours are so wonderfully endowed with such tremendous pinpointed drive, nor have the courage or ambition and the stick to itiveness to follow such a heavy, strict peak contraction program of upper body development. Yet each of us wants a superlative Mr. America type physique, and it goes on. It becomes basically from there just a big ad for the multi power, as Mr. Weeder typically would do. So that's about it for Melvin. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, hitting those likes if you do like the video. Thank everybody for subscribing that already has. And if you haven't, I really appreciate it if you would. It helps me out. That's about it. Thanks, and I'm out.